Welcome back. So I'm going to go over the filament replacement. So how do we know our filament is blown? When we go to turn the filament on, we hit start, and it goes through its startup procedure. You may get a message saying zero emission, check filament. Otherwise, our emission current, our IE, is going to be at 0. So before we do that, though, we want to check to make sure our filament is actually turned up. Okay? When you add a new user, the default setting, it defaults the filament heating current to 0. So you may think, oh shoot, I just started and I have a blown filament. So I'm going to show you, if we right click on anything, it brings up another menu. So I right clicked on the start stop, and now I'm going to go to beam align. So this I didn't show you earlier. So I showed you the simple alignment. So the beam align is mainly when we put a new filament in, because that filament is not going to be in the exact same position. It'll be close, but it's not going to be the exact same position. So we're going to need to do a beam align. So before we go ahead and change a filament, let's make sure we have our filament heating current. So when you first start out with, if you create a new user, it's going to default to 0. So you need to come in here to our beam setting and then beam align, and then make sure that that is anywhere between 75 and 85. Okay, that's going to give it a range, so then it can do an auto filament saturation. Okay, if it's at 0, it's not going to turn that filament up for us. Okay, unless it's already, you know, in a range that's producing electrons. So just double check that before you go ahead and change a filament. Just make sure somehow this didn't get turned back down to 0. Okay. This is our filament hours here. So if you want to know how many hours are on the current filament, so there's 4 hours on this filament so far. Like I said, usually get around 100 hours. If you're getting much shorter than that, it could be because we're oversaturating our filament. And that is because this slider is turned all the way to 100. So just by increasing the filament doesn't mean you're going to get better image or more signal. We're just shortening our life, because there's a point where you saturate and then we oversaturate. You're not gaining anything. You're just shortening the life. Okay.
Right now, you set it 80%.
So right now, if I hover over it, I'm at 85. So these 3 buttons here, 1, 2, 3, those are our saturation points. So we have a low saturation, a mid, and a high. Okay?
Like presets?
They're presets. So when we turn the beam on, it's basically setting how much heating current we're running through there. So 1 is going to give us our longest hours operation of that filament. 2 is kind of closer to saturation, and then 3 is right at saturation, but that's going to shorten your life. Okay, so if you get good enough images at 1, just leave it there. We were operating at 1. We had really good images, and we had a lot of signal.
So right now, is it 1?
It's at 1. Okay.
85% already?
It's not a percentage. It's just it's a voltage. It's a corresponds to a voltage reading. So it's not necessarily a percentage per se. It's just that corresponds to a certain voltage we're running through that current, or the wire. So we're at 85. So now if I turn my beam on, okay, it's giving me an error message because it doesn't know what size samples in there. But what's good about that, my stage is grayed out. I can't move my stage. The software knows there's not, I don't know what's in there. We're not moving, okay? I can still change my mag and focus, okay? But we're just looking at the stage. I cannot move my stage because this is all grayed and the joystick doesn't work. Okay. So I have emission current. I'm at 85. This filament's still good, but I'm going to show you if the filament's blown. The steps for that and how easy it is to change the filament. All right, so no filament. We're going to click this button, replace filament. Okay.
So you turned off the voltage.
I turned it off. Let's see if it's on. And if I click that with it on, well, it's assuming the film is blown, so you're not going to have, you know. Yes, so see it's on, so that's not even there. So it doesn't show up until I turn off the filament. So we're going to hit replace filament, and it's going to bring up a new guide. And we just step through the guide. Very easy. So it's basically telling us if the filament's been on for a while, it gets hot. It's just like a light bulb. It's going to get warm. Let it cool off before we vent. Okay? So we can vent through here. So basically now it's saying, because I don't know where the stage is, I'm going to go to the home position. Do you want the stage to go to the home position? Yes. And now it's venting again. So it's giving you a warning here. If the filament's been on, wait 30 minutes before we open it out and touch it, okay? So we hit next, and now it's going to show us a video, which is nice. It's showing us exactly what to do. So you can see up in the gun here, there's a hinge here. So we need to loosen, there's 4 set screws. So loosen the ones that are on this hinge. Don't loosen the top 4, okay? The top 4 are for aligning the gun. The bottom 4 is for opening the gun, okay? So we're gonna come behind here and grab our trusty little toolbox. So inside here is where we keep the spare filaments. All right, so we're going to take the Allen wrench and we're just going to loosen. We don't need to unscrew them all the way. We're just going to screw them a little bit.
We have 4 of those screws.
4 at the bottom, yep. Okay, my still venting there. So once that goes solid. So in the bottom is the box of filaments. So you have two boxes here. So the box is full of bases. So these are pre-centered filaments. Mm-hmm. So we take each one is its own filament, and we take the cap and we just put it on here. So we don't have to align these. The only thing we have to do with these, you can take it by the feet. So whichever these brass spacers, mm-hmm. these set the height of the cap. So whichever ones come with the base that it came with, that's what you put on this. So you take some tweezers, which are, there should be some on the table here or in the box. Yeah. So you take the tweezers and then you take whatever spacers came with the base, put it on there first, and then you screw the cap on. Okay. So so we can open up the gun. Inside here, there's a locking ring. And it's not hot, so I'll open it. The other reason why you want to wait for it to cool off, because these expand when they're hot. So it's harder to take off. So I usually just set the ring up there, and these slide out. And you notice they're indexed. So there's a notch on each one, and there's a key up in here. So you cannot put it in the wrong way. So
the copper thing, copper spacer.
You see them here? So the copper spacer, so when I take the cap off, so this one has the spacers here. So this cap's still good, but you can see how they starts to tarnish on the inside.
How do you clean it off?
Metal polish. We just use metal polish, Q-tip, cotton tip applicator, and metal polish.
That's some kind of an etchant for tungsten, metal polish?
Yeah. It shows it shows in the video. So if we come here and we hit next, it'll show taking the cap off. So it's saying any polishing paste used in the cleaning operation should be removed completely. So so they recommend using metal polish and then sonicating it in like acetone or isopropyl. But when I come and do the maintenance, I do that. I'll clean it and everything. So like I said, just you have a spare cap. So they're actually telling you to take the anode off too and clean that. I wouldn't do that. So yeah, they're showing you. Or they've got some acetone. And they're showing you taking the new one. Yeah. So everything's in the video. Wear gloves, of course, which you're going to be in here anyways. And then it's showing putting the filament back in. Just slides in. And then just get this snug. Don't over tighten that ring. Just snug. And then you can close it. And then I like to, before I tighten these back up, is let the vacuum pump down on the. So then now it's asking us to reset the time. It won't let me go to the next step unless I reset the time. So even though this one has hours on it, we'll reset it so we can go to the next step. Okay. So now we have three options. We have auto mode, support mode, and manual mode. What mode do you think we're going to use?
Auto.
We're going to use auto mode, exactly. So for auto mode, it's telling us we need to put a specimen in. But we're not going to just put any specimen in. We're going to put in the calibration specimen.
Okay.
The calibration specimen's in the toolbox. So if you notice, it's just an aluminum stub that's got a rough surface.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is. It's so we have some features and some contrast. So it's just threaded on. So we're going to take our base, and just like we did at any other sample, we're going to load it up. So it already, same size, calibration. We hit next. We're going to measure our height. So we're actually below, so I'm going to loosen this up.
0.
0. Tighten it up. Next, we're going to open the door. Remember the flat side?
From that side, or could you go from the left too?
Well, because the stop's here, it's easier to come from this way. I mean, yeah, you could stand here and do it.
No, I meant like could it 180 and slip on?
No, no. You can't change that orientation.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Here it's stop.
Yeah. So now we're going to hit stage move.
What do you think? Yeah.
Stage move. So it's just setting the height, just like a regular sample.
Oh, that has to be done before we load it?
Yeah, every time. Yes. When we load a sample, you're always going to go through this procedure. Because your height could be different.
And obviously it will give an error if I don't do that, right? Like, if I load the sample, I forget to...
Yeah, if there's no sample in there, you can't run into anything. There's nothing.
No, what I'm saying is that I did that, and then I forget to do the stage move over there and then try to...
It won't pump down. Yeah, it won't allow you to pump down. Yeah.
Wow, that's...
It's close, but as long as it goes under there, you're fine. So we hit next. We hit evac. See, now this is grayed out because we're not capturing images. We're not doing analysis. We're just going to high vacuum. So now it's going to pump down. So now while it's pumping down, I'll go here and just snug these up. Doesn't have to be, don't over tighten these. These will become active once it's pumped down. So, all right, so the scope is pumped down. These are now active. We're going to use auto and let the software do its thing. So it's just going to do everything in the background. And then after this, I'll actually show you, if you want to do it manually, what that would look like. And then we can check to see how well the auto function did. So you can see the beams turning on, it's doing something.
But then we still have to do manually the line.
No, you don't.
you don't have to.
You don't. That's what it's doing for us right now. It's doing this exact same steps we would do, but some people like to do it manually. They don't trust the autos, so. So yeah, it's going through all the alignments that you would do. So yeah, auto stig align X, auto stig align Y. It's doing all those. Yeah. So auto beam align ABA is complete. Hit OK. And that's it. Just change the filament. Nothing to it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And you can see it reset their counter, right? So that's what it looks like when you have a new filament. And even though we reset the time, it also, like I said, it does measure the resistance of that wire as it thins out. So it will update for that. Yeah. So we're just going to turn the beam on. Because we loaded the sample, we can move the stage if we wanted to, because we did go through that whole procedure. So to get to the beam alignment, we're going to do that same procedure where we look to where our filament heating current was set at. So I'm going to right click on this box, and then I can go to beam align. So it did an auto at 84. You can see our hours are reset. So up at the top, we have now optical axis alignment. So optical axis is we want to center the beam in the column. So that's what we're going to do. And that's what it already did do.
Okay. So now you're doing the manual?
So this is now the manual procedure if you want to check it. So we hit optical axis alignment. It's going to bring up this window, and we're going to hit next. And then we're going to see now these knobs have turned into our alignment knobs. And that's blinking to let us know when we're in the alignment mode.
Nice.
So I'll move these. So we're on step 1. It's saying obtain the brightest image by adjusting the X and Y. So we're not concerned about it not being right in the center. We're just trying to make this as bright as possible.
Okay.
So it was fairly close, but look, I'm making it a little brighter. So you adjust both the X and Y to get the brightest spot. Okay, and you can turn down your contrast too if it's too bright, right, where you can't tell. So we're electronically shifting the beam up in our gun. That's what we're doing right now. So once we get the brightest image, we're going to hit next. And now it's saying move the image to the center. If the image center is out of the smallest circle, press reset and move the image to center by objective aperture. But we're going to use the electronics.
Yeah, I remember doing something like this on the older systems.
Yes, yeah. So you could see it was close, right? It didn't get it perfect, but that's why you can check it manually. And now the last step, same thing. We're just going to move it to the center. Hit finish. That's it. And actually it is a little brighter. So, so if you want to check it manually, like I said, auto is good, get you close. And then if you want to double check it manually, go right ahead. So yeah, first one, getting the brightest spot. The next two, you move that spot to the center, and that's it. So we can close these. Auto. And then once you're done, just hit stop. And then we can do specimen exchange, remove specimen, and now we'll shut it down for good. Once we remove our sample for the final time, we're going to close the door and just hit evac. Let it pump down. So while it's pumping down, we can exit out of the software. So at this point, you can either leave the computer on. If you're done, you know you're going to be gone for a while. We're just going to do a normal Windows shutdown. Shut the computer down. And then we're just going to wait for the chamber to completely evacuate, wait for that light to go solid, and then we'll turn the key off once that's solid. And you just turn it off.